a mother, a general, a coffin, and a gun to her head. The most powerful woman in Army history whispered 3 words, "Not today," as a white officer tightened his grip on the trigger. What followed sparked a national firestorm. This isn't fiction. This happened, and the truth behind it is more terrifying than you can imagine. Subscribe now if you believe the world needs to know what happened that day. If you found this story powerful and inspiring, press 1 to let us know. If you're not satisfied or want different content, press 0. 2 days before the funeral that would shock the nation, Lieutenant General Nadine Carter stared out the plane window as she descended into Houston. Grief sat like a weight on her chest. Her son, Captain Jamal Carter, killed in Afghanistan, would never come home. Nadine had led troops in 3 wars, earned the country's highest honors, and broken barriers no black woman had crossed before, but none of it prepared her for burying her only child. She adjusted her decorated uniform, the one that had always served as armor, though today it felt like it might shatter. In the airport, fellow travelers nodded with respect. A young girl even asked for an autograph, her parents proudly explaining she was meeting a true American hero. But that moment of grace ended at the security checkpoint. "Random additional screening," said Officer Dean McAllister, a stocky white man with cold eyes. Nadine calmly explained she had already cleared security and was on urgent family business, showing her ID. McAllister smirked. "Looks fake. A black woman as a general. How do I know you didn't steal that uniform?" Travelers nearby fell silent. Nadine stayed composed. "I'm here to bury my son who died serving this country." McAllister scoffed. "Sure, step aside." What should have taken 5 minutes stretched into 2 humiliating hours. McAllister forced her to remove her jacket, questioned every document, and repeatedly implied her uniform was stolen. When Nadine's daughter, Naomi, arrived, McAllister threatened to arrest her too. When they were finally released, Nadine asked to file a complaint. "I wouldn't," warned the supervisor. "McAllister has friends. Complaints often turn into arrests." Outside, Naomi fumed. "We need to fight this." Nadine shook her head. "Right now we honor Jamal." But what Nadine didn't know was that McAllister was already making a call. Target confirmed. "The general is here." The reply, "Good work. The gatekeepers send their regards." This wasn't just racism. Nadine had landed in the sights of a secret brotherhood bent on keeping black service members in their place. And they had been waiting for her. The Carter family home in Houston's 3rd Ward was a symbol of black excellence. 3 generations of military service smiled from the framed photos lining the walls. The Carter home was filled with medals and photos, 3 generations of military service. But none of that prepared Nadine Carter for burying her only son. The night before the funeral, she sat in her childhood bedroom, finally letting herself cry. Her father, Calvin Carter, a 78-year-old Vietnam vet, entered with an envelope. "This came for you. From Jamal." Inside was a thumb drive and a note, "If anything happens to me, give this to Mom. Trust no one in uniform but her." Nadine opened the files, dozens of documents exposing a racist group called the Gatekeepers, made up of police officers targeting black veterans. Jamal had been investigating them. One image stood out, Officer Dean McAllister, the same man who harassed her at the airport. Naomi entered with Officer Daniel Chen, Jamal's Sally. "Your son believed his deployment was manipulated. He was sent into danger on purpose," Chen said. A folder labeled Pentagon Connections confirmed it. Nadine's grief hardened into resolve. "We need to expose this." Inside Houston Police Headquarters, the public image of justice hid a secret reality. Behind closed doors, the gatekeepers operated freely. Officer Dean McAllister sat in the back room of Lyndon's Bar and Grill with 6 longtime officers. Chief Malcolm Prescott entered and slid photos across the table, images of Lieutenant General Nadine Carter. "Our airport stunt didn't scare her. She's contacting Washington," Prescott said. "She's not just any soldier, she's Jamal Carter's mother." The group fell silent. McAllister smirked. "Let me handle it. I'll need the security detail for the funeral." Prescott nodded. Across town, Internal Affairs Detective Sandra Martinez reviewed stalled cases, patterns of misconduct, especially against black veterans. Every time she closed in, evidence vanished. Tonight, she added McAllister to her board. Multiple travelers had reported his behavior at the airport, yet the complaint had mysteriously disappeared. Then her phone rang. It was Officer Chen. "We need to talk. I have intel on McAllister and the gatekeepers." Martinez agreed to meet, but Chen never arrived. Instead, she got an alert Chen had been found unconscious with severe injuries. Officially a robbery, Martinez knew better. At the hospital, Chief Prescott stood over Chen's broken body. McAllister entered quietly. Doctors say he won't wake up soon. Prescott nodded. What about his apartment? We've got his phone and laptop, McAllister said. What they didn't know was that Chen had hidden the real evidence recordings of gatekeeper meetings where Prescott detailed the plan: identify rising black officers, harass them, dig for leverage, and ruin their careers. That night, McAllister received his assignment: full control of security at Jefferson Memorial Cemetery. The target, General Carter. McAllister began calling his most loyal officers. Tomorrow we remind the general who runs this city, he said. By morning, 20 gatekeepers had been assigned to funeral duty. Their goal: publicly humiliate Nadine Carter, proving that no rank or medal could challenge their control. But they underestimated her. Nadine had spent her life breaking barriers, burying friends, and fighting systems built to exclude her. She wasn't backing down. As Nadine's car entered Jefferson Memorial Cemetery, the Texas sun beat down. Her son, Captain Jamal Carter, was to be buried with full honors in the Valor section, reserved for Afghanistan war casualties. But when she met the cemetery director, Thomas Wells, he claimed there'd been a mistake. The Valor section was full and Jamal would be buried in the East Gardens, the section once reserved for black soldiers. Nadine didn't flinch. She presented legal documents, burial policy, and her civil rights lawyer daughter's contact info. Your choice, she said coldly. Before Wells could respond, a groundskeeper stepped in. Michael Saunders, whose son had served and died alongside Jamal, pleaded with Wells. This isn't right, he said, holding up a photo of Jamal and his son, smiling in combat gear. Shaken, Wells backed down. Captain Carter will be buried in the Valor section as planned, he said quietly. But as Nadine left, a cemetery assistant handed her an envelope. Inside was a crude sketch of a military funeral with a target drawn over her figure. A fingerprint smudged the page clearly from police issue ink. Later that evening, Nadine learned Jamal's fellow soldiers had been followed, their hotel rooms searched. The gatekeepers were planning something. Still, Nadine made one thing clear: the funeral would proceed. No threats, no intimidation, nothing would stop her from honoring her son. Her son would be honored properly no matter what. That night in Houston, Nadine sat alone with Jamal's photo, whispering to him, I won't let them dishonor you, whatever it takes. Do you believe certain professions should be held to higher standards when it comes to racial discrimination? Comment 1 if police and military should face stricter penalties, or 2 if everyone should be held to the same standard. Like and subscribe if you want justice to prevail in this story. At dawn, Jefferson Memorial Cemetery gleamed under golden sunlight. By 7 a.m., military personnel were preparing for the funeral of Captain Jamal Carter. Honor guards drilled with precision. Nadine arrived early, dressed in full uniform, stoic and composed. Her daughter Naomi had arranged for discreet security cameras and armed members of Jamal's unit, anticipating trouble. By 9 a.m., the mourners began arriving: soldiers, veterans, family, and media. Nadine noticed the police presence immediately. Officer McAllister and his team were in control, but their behavior was alarming. White mourners passed easily. Black attendees were searched, questioned, or turned away. Even Jamal's black comrades faced threats of arrest. The seating was segregated: whites near the casket, blacks behind barricades, unable to see or hear. Nadine watched, furious but calm. This day was for Jamal. She stood beside her father and daughter as the ceremony began. The chaplain spoke. Soldiers shared stories of Jamal. Nadine, poised and dignified, took the podium. My son believed in an America worth fighting for, she said. An America that lives up to its ideals of justice for all. Officer McAllister crept closer, speaking into his radio. More officers moved into position. Nadine continued, true patriotism means holding your country accountable. She pulled a letter from her pocket. Before he died, Jamal wrote this. The crowd leaned in. McAllister's hand moved to his holster. Nadine read aloud, what I've found goes beyond racism. It's organized. They target black service members. If anything happens to me, this evidence must reach the right hands. The air shifted. A reckoning was coming. As Nadine finished reading her son's final letter, the honor guard approached with the folded flag. A white sergeant, who had served with Jamal, handed it to her with formal precision. Her hands trembled, the first visible crack in her composure. Suddenly, Officer McAllister stormed forward, drawing his gun. "General Carter," he barked, "you need to come with me." He pressed the weapon to her temple, blood trickling onto her Medal of Honor. Gasps erupted. Cameras flashed. "This black thinks she's untouchable," McAllister growled. 20 armed gatekeeper officers watched in silence. Nadine, through tears, whispered, "Not today." She reached for the flag. McAllister's finger tightened on the trigger. A gunshot rang out, but it came from Officer Wilson, who fired into the air and shouted, "She's reaching for a weapon." Chaos broke loose. McAllister tackled Nadine, screaming false claims. Her son's flag fell to the dirt. "It's all on video," Naomi yelled. Dozens of phones had captured everything. Still, McAllister cuffed Nadine. "You're under arrest for assault and attempted weapon use," he claimed. A decorated general, face in the dirt, sobbed beside her son's grave. Her father Calvin tried to intervene and was restrained. Naomi was shoved. Jamal's fellow soldiers advanced, but froze as weapons were drawn. "Anyone moves, they go down," Wilson shouted. As Nadine was pulled up, a powerful voice boomed. "What in God's name is happening here?" BI agent Jordan Harris stepped in, flashing his badge. "Why is a lieutenant general being arrested at her son's funeral?" McAllister clung to his claim of a weapon. Witnesses shouted, "That's a lie." Harris demanded she be released. McAllister refused. "She's our arrest." What followed made global headlines. McAllister ordered phones and cameras seized, sparking violent confrontations. Nadine was dragged away, cuffed, her medal torn. Agent Harris began collecting witness statements while Naomi alerted media and legal teams. By the time Nadine reached the jail, video of the incident had gone viral. A hidden recording from a veteran showed the full sequence: McAllister drawing his gun unprovoked, Wilson firing to create confusion, and the lies about a weapon. Inside the jail, Nadine stood tall, maintaining her dignity as they tried to humiliate her. Nadine was denied a change of clothes, repeatedly searched, and held for hours without a phone call. "You think those stars mean anything here?" The booking officer sneered, forcing multiple fingerprint attempts. "Just another black criminal to us." 4 hours later, Agent Harris demanded to see her, but the jail supervisor refused. Outside, hundreds of veterans gathered in silence. Their message: "We're watching." In her cell, Nadine realized this wasn't just intimidation, it was a calculated attempt to publicly destroy her. The system was trying to break her before she could expose them. 6 hours into detention, still denied basic rights, Nadine sat tall in her stained uniform. Officer Jackson entered. "General Carter, you're being moved to general population." Nadine demanded her phone call. Jackson hesitated. "Judge Hartman denied bail. You're classified as a security risk." Hartman Jamal had flagged him as biased against black veterans. Now he was involved. Nadine was being framed for attempted murder. In the general population, whispers followed her. "That's the general from the news." A woman approached. 3rd Infantry Division, Iraq. "You brought my brother home. I'm Teresa. You're under our protection." Within hours, a silent alliance formed. Women with military ties watched over her. Later that night, Officer Jackson slipped her a hidden phone. 5 minutes. Nadine called Naomi. "Mom, thank God. The footage is everywhere. The world saw what they did." Nadine warned Naomi, "Judge Hartman is working with the gatekeepers. Contact Agent Harris and check Jamal's files." Naomi replied, "We're on it." The Pentagon's furious. Veterans are surrounding the jail. "You'll be out by morning." Before Nadine could respond, guards burst in. Surprise inspection, the supervisor smirked. They tore apart her belongings and planted fake contraband. "The gatekeepers send their regards," he whispered. That night, the temperature was lowered, lights kept on, and guards disturbed her every 15 minutes. Classic psychological pressure. The next day, a violent inmate arrived, clearly targeting Nadine. Teresa Stevens stopped her cold. "You touch the general, you deal with all of us." The guards just watched. It was a setup. Officer Jackson slipped Nadine a note: "FBI demanding access. Judge blocking. Lawyer coming tomorrow." On the 3rd morning, everything changed. "Pack up. Court order for your release." Outside, hundreds awaited. Veterans saluted as Nadine walked out in her soiled uniform, head held high. Naomi rushed to her. A federal judge overruled Hartman. Harris made it happen. Nadine spotted Officer Jackson watching quietly an alley behind enemy lines. At the courthouse, Nadine faced the cameras. Naomi spoke first. This wasn't just about my mother. It was about justice. Then Nadine stepped forward. I stand here not just as a grieving mother, but as a soldier sworn to defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic. Nadine looked out at the crowd. What happened at my son's funeral is a domestic threat to the values I defended for 30 years. Applause broke out. Captain Jamal Carter died for a country that hasn't always protected all its citizens. His investigation into racial bias in the military won't die with him. Hashtags trended. Veterans groups launched protests. Military leaders issued statements. Texas Governor Jackson Davis, initially hesitant, arrived mid-speech. General Carter, he said, on behalf of the state, I apologize. I'm launching an independent investigation into what happened at Jefferson Memorial. Nadine nodded. Then her phone rang. It was the White House. She put it on speaker. The president's voice filled the air. General Carter, what happened to you is unacceptable. A full federal investigation is underway. The officers involved are suspended. Your son's funeral will be held at Arlington with full honors. I'll be there myself. After the call, national outrage exploded. News networks went wall to wall. Officer McAllister and 7 others were suspended. Police Chief Prescott distanced himself, promising cooperation. FBI agent Harris formed a task force to probe civil rights violations and racial targeting in law enforcement. But the gatekeepers struck back. That night, Nadine got a message from Officer Jackson, be careful. They're not done. Check your records. The next morning, smear stories surfaced. Anonymous claims questioned Nadine's service record and mental health. Blogs hinted at her promotion being undeserved. The counterattack had begun. The smear campaign against General Nadine Carter spread fast. Within 48 hours, fake stories questioned her mental health, military record, and her son's service. Doctored photos, false reports, and troll accounts flooded media platforms. From her FBI-protected home, Nadine reviewed intel with Agent Harris. This is bigger than local cops, he said. We're seeing ties to political groups and military contractors. Then Naomi entered. Mom, the Pentagon's reviewing your security clearance. Moments later, General Henry S. called. Nadine, I'm sorry, you're being placed on inactive status. Pressure's coming from the top, Harris added. They're trying to silence you. Someone powerful is behind this. Houston grew divided. Veterans rallied outside courthouses. Counter-protesters, some backed by police unions, held signs attacking Nadine's patriotism. On the news, she was either a hero or a political opportunist. The real answer came from a secret fundraiser. Senator Henry Maxwell told donors, I helped build the gatekeepers to maintain order. Carter threatens that order. What he didn't know, an undercover FBI informant recorded every word. The next morning, Nadine's emails were hacked. Her bank flagged suspicious access. Then, FBI agents showed up terrorism division with a search warrant. We've received intel connecting you to extremist groups, said the lead agent. Harris stepped in. That's a lie. She's clean. But the agents searched anyway by orders from D.C. They took laptops, phones, and even Jamal's belongings. No arrest, but a message was clear. Powerful enemies were using federal tools to destroy her. Cameras caught the raid. Speculation exploded. Support faded. Allies distanced themselves. The pressure was working. But Nadine Carter wasn't done fighting. Political allies issued vague statements about waiting for all the facts. The White House press secretary backtracked, calling the president's phone call to Nadine a standard courtesy, not an endorsement. The strategy was clear: discredit, isolate, and erase her. But the gatekeepers underestimated Nadine Carter. That evening, Officer Chen, bruised but determined, arrived with Agent Harris. They took my official gear, Chen said, but not my hidden backup. He handed Nadine a flash drive. Inside, recordings of Chief Prescott planning targeted harassment of black service members and messages linking it all to Senator Maxwell's office. Agent Harris reviewed it. Enough to go after the senator, but we have to be careful. He has powerful allies. As they strategized, a news flash interrupted. Senator Maxwell was running for governor, campaigning as the law and order candidate. His numbers were strong. Meanwhile, Officer McAllister appeared on TV, painting himself as a wronged officer who simply followed protocol. The narrative was shifting, carefully controlled. But Maxwell had never faced someone like Nadine Carter. That night, Nadine and her team regrouped at a lakeside safe house owned by a retired JAG officer. Inside, Agent Harris and his trusted FBI agents. Chen with his evidence, Naomi with legal strategy, and Jamal's fellow soldiers. The cabin was locked down, signal jammers, rotating guards, secure comms. "We're building a counterintelligence op against our own government," Harris said. "If we're wrong, it ends our careers. If we're right," Nadine added, "we're taking on one of the most powerful men in Texas." She looked around. "Anyone can leave now." No one moved. Naomi analyzed the smear campaign bots, copy-paste comments, scripted headlines. Chen uploaded the recordings. The worst: Chief Prescott and McAllister planning intimidation, coordinating with military insiders to monitor black officers, and Maxwell calling Nadine a political liability. This wasn't just corruption. It was a hidden empire. And it was about to be exposed. "She's too visible. Her son got too close." Prescott confessed everything, targeting black officers, rigging deployments, Maxwell's involvement. Nadine recorded it all. Hours later, the FBI raided homes and offices. Prescott, McAllister, and 18 gatekeepers were arrested. News cameras caught the fall of the Brotherhood. Prescott protested. "This recording's illegal." Agent Harris replied, "Not under anti-terror laws. You targeted military personnel." At the press conference, Nadine stood tall. Charges included conspiracy, civil rights abuse, and negligent homicide. Jamal's death would not be buried in silence. Justice had begun, and this time it was loud. The evidence was overwhelming. Recordings, documents, and first-hand testimony exposed a deep conspiracy targeting black service members. "This is decades of discrimination," the U.S. attorney announced. The press pressed on Senator Maxwell. "We'll follow the evidence wherever it leads," was the firm reply. Maxwell denied everything but panicked behind the scenes. His calls, money trails, and a damning recording tied him to Jamal Carter's death. He pulled every string: media, allies, judges, even military contacts, to block the investigation. A judge loyal to Maxwell temporarily halted the case. Nadine's security clearance came under review. Officer McAllister attempted suicide, shifting public sympathy. But the investigation pressed forward. Then came the turning point. Judge Hartman flipped, handing over records proving Maxwell gave direct orders to target black reformers. His cooperation triggered a national hearing. Nadine testified before the country, calm and clear. She told the truth about Jamal, the gatekeepers, and a system built to silence justice. The fight was far from over, but the silence had been broken. Nadine's testimony was calm, powerful, and dismantled Maxwell's public image. "For 30 years, I've served a country that promises justice. What I saw in Houston was a betrayal," she said. Her words ignited the nation. The Pentagon reinstated her clearance with apologies. A new investigation into Jamal's deployment began. More victims of the gatekeepers came forward from across the country. Officer McAllister, recovering from his suicide attempt, was charged and began cooperating. Maxwell stayed defiant but lost support fast. His campaign collapsed as financial crimes surfaced. His empire was crumbling. 1 year later, Jefferson Memorial Cemetery was renamed Heroes Memorial. Hundreds gathered to finish Captain Jamal Carter's funeral. A new wall honored service members who faced discrimination. General Nadine Carter, now promoted, stood proudly in uniform. At her side, her father, daughter, Harris, Chen, now lieutenant, and others who helped take the gatekeepers down. McAllister was sentenced to life. Prescott got 20 years. Dozens more faced charges. The Houston Police Department underwent major reforms under federal oversight. Military branches created new protections for whistleblowers. The flag was finally handed to Nadine in a moment of peace. Then Governor Davis signed the Jamal Carter Military Justice Act, protecting veterans from future discrimination. As the crowd applauded, a final surprise arrived: Senator Henry Maxwell. Despite multiple indictments, Senator Maxwell remained free on bail. His appearance at the ceremony was a calculated move to appear remorseful and influence public opinion. He approached Nadine with cameras rolling, offering his hand and empty words. Nadine didn't take his hand. Instead, she pulled out a recorder. "Senator Maxwell, I believe you dropped this in Afghanistan," she said. His face drained as she revealed it contained a recording of him requesting Jamal be sent into danger. Military police moved in. "Senator Henry Maxwell, you're under arrest for conspiracy in the death of Captain Jamal Carter." The crowd watched in silence, then erupted into applause. Justice had finally come. The arrest sparked a national wave. More victims surfaced. Federal investigations expanded. What began in Houston became a reckoning across law enforcement and military systems nationwide. New reforms were implemented. Nadine launched the Carter Foundation, offering support for service members facing discrimination. She took a Pentagon role to reform military justice and helped Officer Chen lead a new integrity unit. At her son's grave, Nadine whispered, "We finished what you started." Her salute marked the beginning of lasting change. The gatekeepers had tried to preserve a corrupt order. Instead, they triggered transformation. From this story, we learn a bitter but undeniable truth. Injustice can hide in the very institutions meant to uphold honor, like the military, the courts, or law enforcement. But we also discover that courage, persistence, and integrity can break through even the strongest walls of silence. This wasn't just a journey for justice over a fallen son. It was a reminder of our collective duty to speak up, to act, and to shine light into the darkness. If you were the one living this story, what would you do next? Stay silent and try to live in peace, or step back into the light and confront other hidden wrongs? The battle is not over. And the larger question remains: by the year 2050, will racism truly be gone? Or will we still need brave souls to keep fighting and finish the final chapter of justice? Note: this story is entirely fictional and created for the purpose of raising awareness. It highlights issues of responsibility, justice, and the importance of treating everyone with respect and dignity. We firmly oppose violence, prejudice, and injustice in all forms. Viewer discretion is advised.